Hey everyone, Kala here. Let's talk about loyalty. Not in some vague aspirational sense, but what loyalty to a company actually means, and whether it's even a moral imperative anymore. So Shaw defines loyalty to a firm as a personal commitment that, in theory, is reciprocal. Loyalty is earned, not owed, and it flows both ways, per Shaw, chapter 10. But the world of work we live in today isn't the one our parents did. Certainly isn't mine. This isn't the era of pensions, gold watches, and staying 30 years just to prove a point. Really, if we think about it, it's a freelance era. You see it in sports, you see it in other areas, but let me expound a bit. Within this landscape, we have to ask ourselves first, do employees owe loyalty to their company or to themselves? So I think case 10-1 is a great lens to explore this and something I can actually relate to personally. We're talking about an employee, Valerie, who gets a dream job, dream offer from a company she respects, but it comes at a tail end and a really important part of a high stakes project with a current employer. So now she's torn because the husband obviously posed the question, but following through and delay her growth, follow through on the project or delay her growth or leave for something that aligns with the future. So again, I think a lot of us have been there. I know in my career, I literally was there not too long ago. So here's where I land. So from my perspective, and I think I can make a case for this, Valerie should take the job, but she owes it to her current team and to herself to leave in a good place. Leave well. That means codifying her approach. And I've done this. You document your methods, you crystallize them, and you help identify a person you can carry that, pick that up, carry that baton through to the finish line. In other words, you leave your legacy, not a big mess. So I don't think it's an either or proposition. I'm not going to support this. So, first, from a utilitarian perspective, this actually creates the greatest net good. The new company gets a skilled leader, which is what we need. Valerie gets to grow her career, and her current team gets a thoughtful support transition plan, not an abrupt exit, which again, Shaw, I think chapter 2, supports that. Now, if you look at it from a Kantian model, and one would ask, can the maxim rather of this action be universalized? In other words, what if everyone left projects midstream for a better offer? Well, shaky ground. But here's the nuance. Valerie isn't ghosting, she's preparing her team. She's doing what she would expect from someone else. And that passes Kant's test of universality and respect for persons as ends. That really is means. Again, Shaw, I think, chapter 2. Now let's bring in Ross's pluralism. In theory, his theory rather reminds us that we have many moral duties: fidelity, reparation, beneficence, self improvement among them. Valerie has a duty to her team, yes, but to herself to grow, to flourish, and seize the opportunities she's worked for is the most important. Again, I can support that in Shaw chapter 2. And I've got to say this directly: loyalty to a company is not unconditional. When layoffs happen, companies do not hesitate. Believe me, I've been through a couple myself recently. So when an individual prioritizes rather their growth, it should not be seen as betrayal. It's strategy, and that's how it's seen from the other lens. Now, as someone who's been in the workplace trenches, let me be real, loyalty to coworkers. Now, that's a different story. You build something together, carry each other through deadlines and detours. I mean, in a sense, you become a community. And that matters. I do not believe we owe something to our colleagues in that regard, but that debt isn't paid by, sorry, I do believe we owe something in that regards, but that debt isn't paid by staying stuck. It's paid by preparing them to succeed when we move on. Now, morally speaking, we're in an era of pragmatic ethics. And we all know this. It's not something that's surprising. The best leaders today don't cling to team loyalty as a moral badge, they operationalize it. That means mentor, transfers knowledge, build resilient systems, and lead organizations better than you found them. That's loyalty with integrity. And that loyalty with integrity is something we should profoundly look at. And you can look at Solomon Ethics and Excellence for that, page 115. Now, because at the end of the day, the deepest loyalty you owe to the version is to the version of you, and that has to live with your and you have to live with those choices. And at the end, at this age of impermanence and disruption, loyalty to yourself is not only not selfish, it's survival and maybe even wisdom, my perspective. All right, team, thanks for listening. I'm Cal out.